What's up, everyone? My name is John MacDonald. Today we're going to be going over the negative effects of positive visualization. I have three goals for my presentation. Number one is going to be to describe what positive visualization is to you. Number two is going to be to compare and contrast the differences between a popular press article and a scientific journal. And third is going to be to determine whether or not the popular press article accurately reflects the work done in the scientific community. Now, what is positive visualization? Imagine you're doing any sort of task, whether it's some sort of thing in a sport, you're going in for a job interview, you're trying to ace an exam. If beforehand you see yourself doing well in that test or that task, you're going to do well in it. If you see yourself not doing well, you flunking out, you making a fool out of yourself, odds are that's going to happen. So recently I came across an article in Forbes titled "Visualize Success If You Want to Fail." Now this immediately struck me as odd because it completely contradicted everything I had learned in my life up until this point. Before, visualizing success was the key to doing anything, and if you didn't do it, you wouldn't be able to do it. So immediately I was just kind of struck back by this and I wanted to look more into it. So I read through the article. It made mention of the scientific journal and that it briefly described the 4 experiments that this group from NYU did, and it came up with the conclusion that visualizing success can actually drain energy from you and make you less likely to perform a certain task. So I didn't want to just read, an article from Forbes. I wanted to look into it a little bit more. So I pulled up the actual journal that was published in the Journal for Experimental Social Psychology, done by a group of professors from NYU. They did 4 different experiments over the course of several months, all related to the one I'm going to describe, but slightly different. In one experiment, they had a large group of about 100 people go throughout the day without drinking much water. Then odds are they became parched, and what they had later in the day, they had them visualize themselves drinking a glass of cold water. They found that immediately following this, their blood pressures dropped, and they reasoned that this could actually cause a decrease in a performance or likely to succeed at a given task. Now, I have a little bit of an issue with this because it doesn't really make sense to me. A small change in blood pressure really shouldn't impact your muscular ability to do work. Now granted, they made an entire paper on this and it was published, so it had some footing in the scientific community, but I didn't really agree with it. So 2 main differences between the popular press article in Forbes and the scientific journal lies in its audience and its language. If you look on the left, you can see me scrolling through the journal. It's 11 pages and 11,000 words with over almost 100 different references. A random person that's just looking for a quick bit of information isn't going to sit down and read through all of that, especially when you come across these huge walls of text. Instead, they're going to go to somewhere like Forbes, where they can read a very short article that's about 500 words, as was DeSalvo's, and they can get the exact same message out of it. Now, the other thing lies in its language. The popular press article is a lot easier to understand. The scientific journal isn't. The scientific journal uses big words. The popular press article really doesn't. If you read this passage from the Forbes article, during the course of 4 experiments, Capps and Oettingen demonstrated that conjuring positive fantasies of success drains the energy out of ambition. You know what he's trying to say. If you visualize yourself having success, you're going to have energy drained from you. On the contrary, I'll read you a short excerpt from the scientific journal, and it pretty much is how it is throughout, but I want you guys to tell me if you know what I'm saying. Feelings of irritation after the manipulation did not suffer by condition T48 equals 0.38, P equals 0.71, M pos equals 1.72, SD equals 0.75 versus M neg equals 1.81, SD equals 0.88. They were not significantly correlated with energization, R equals 0.10, P equals 0.49. Further, the effective fantasy condition on energization remained significant when irritation was included as a covariate. More numbers, more symbols, you get my point. You don't know what they're saying, and that's why you're going to go to somewhere like Forbes to get a quick bit of information. Now, in conclusion, despite the fact that DeSalvo really just generally summarized the experiments and the findings, he got his message across. He was able to clearly convey what the researchers were trying to say, and he was able to do so in a very brief fashion rather than somewhere like a scientific journal where you're looking at 11 pages and 11,000 words. So in the future, this will make me a little more inclined to look at a popular press article and reason that they're accurately conveying what the scientific journal is trying to say. These are my references. Appreciate your time.